Hi, I'm Kyle with Stinger Electronics. Today I'm going to walk you through how to install a brand new Stinger Elev8 infotainment system. Whether you're a casual driver that wants an upgraded touchscreen radio with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, or an audiophile that wants the best sound quality for your car, the Stinger Elev8 is equipped with a ton of features and a clean, modern design. Let's get started. Today we're going to be working on this 2001 Lexus IS300. After we're done, the driving experience will be totally transformed to include Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, video from the backup camera, and be perfectly suited to upgrade the sound system later on. As with any aftermarket radio installation, you'll need at least a dash kit to hold the radio in place, and a wiring harness to connect to the factory wires. These parts are sold separately and are specific to your year, make, and model of vehicle. Depending on the year, make, model of your car, you may need additional harnesses or interfaces to retain features such as factory steering wheel controls, backup camera, or other features. With this car, we don't need to worry about any of that, so we're good to go. Before we begin, let's go over the tools we'll need. Plastic pry tool, Phillips screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, cutter and cripper tool, socket, socket extension, ratchet, pliers, zip ties, crimp caps, and a microfiber cloth. Now we'll go ahead with the disassembly. Now that we've got the factory radio removed, let's head over to the bench and get our Elev8 assembly put together. The only thing that will remain is moving these factory climate controls over to the new dash kit. Wiring is where most people get scared away from doing car stereo installs, but it's actually quite easy. We have our vehicle-specific wiring harness sold separately, and we have our wiring harness for the Elev8. As you can see, the wires are color-coded and labeled. 90% of the time, these wires will connect to these wires color for color. Today we're going to be using crimp caps to make our connections, but you can use solder and heat shrink if you like. Now we'll wire together the vehicle harness and the Elev8's harness. You'll notice that we have some unused wires, the majority of which we're just going to cap off so they don't short out behind the dash. We will be left with two wires, the reverse wire and the parking brake wire. We'll hook those up once we get into the vehicle. To tidy up our wiring, we're going to use some zip ties to make everything look a little bit more clean. Now that we've got our wiring harness finished, let's go prepare the dash kit. This dash kit was purchased separately and is made specifically for our 2001 Lexus IS300. The dash kit you buy needs to be made for your vehicle's year, make, and model. For now, we're going to set the dash kit to the side and get the radio's assembly put together. The Elev8 can be installed in single DIN openings and double DIN openings. Since the IS300 has a double DIN size opening, that's the way we're going to configure it today. This is how the bracketing and radio brain assembly will look in a double DIN size configuration. In a single DIN orientation, the radio brain and bracket are mounted separately in the vehicle, and the single DIN opening is occupied by this mounting bracket, which your screen will attach to later on. This bracket on the back of the screen may need to be adjusted to get the screen exactly where you want it in the vehicle. The same thing goes for this bracket in the double DIN mounting orientation. Now that we have the radio assembly configured, we're going to slide the dash kit back over and get it ready to mount it all together. Here's the two brackets that will mount to the sides of the double DIN configured radio chassis. Here's the kit's fascia, which the side brackets will mount to. Here's the fascia's trim ring, which will make it look even better after the assembly. A pocket is included with the dash kit when using it in a single DIN opening style configuration. We will not be using it since we are mounting ours in a double DIN style configuration. Since we're using it in a double DIN configuration, we need to snap this piece of plastic off so that it'll allow the radio to fit up inside the bezel. Snap these pieces of plastic off because this is what would have held the pocket on. We are not using that as well. The side bracket snaps into the bezel right here. Now we'll slide the radio chassis into the newly constructed dash kit. Now we're going to mount the screen to the bracketing to see if we need to move it forwards or backwards to get it as close to the dash as possible. The Elev8 screen can be mounted with the knobs up or the knobs down, depending on your aesthetic preference. For this installation, we will be mounting it with the knobs up to better fit the vehicle's dash. Everything's ready to go. We're going to head over to the car. Before we install the radio, let's install the USB ports. This is the SS USB 2. It's sold separately and it features dual USB ports and a flush mountable assembly. Now that we have our USB ports mounted, that's these cables here, let's talk about the backup camera. We previously installed the backup camera and connected it to power at the reverse lamp. That wire has been ran up to the radio. We're going to connect that to the reverse wire on the radio harness now. In addition to those connections, the parking brake wire has been ran as well. We'll connect that to the radio here now. Before we mount the new radio, we need to relocate the climate controls over to the new dash kit. There's going to be some additional cables in your Elev8 box. Let's talk about those now. Here's your GPS antenna. We're going to mount that above the pocket in the dash. This harness we'll be using to connect the audio RCAs in order to retain the factory amplifier in this vehicle, as well as the backup camera connection. On this vehicle-specific wiring harness, there's RCAs to connect the audio lines. We'll connect the front lines to the front lines on the aftermarket radio's output. Now we'll connect the rear labeled lines to the rear audio output RCAs on the Elev8 as well. The last connection to be made for this harness is going to be the backup camera. Now we're ready to plug in all of our connectors from the radio to the vehicle. Now that all of our final connections are made behind the radio, be sure to leave these two connectors coming through the face of the dash kit. These will be connected to the display, which we'll mount now. Mount the display to the radio chassis, and that'll complete the assembly. Now that we've got everything installed, we're going to test the functions of the radio to ensure that we're ready to reinstall the rest of the dash. Now that we've got the radio booted up, you can see that we're on the AM/FM source. You can set presets, you can seek and scan, you can auto-program your local stations, access your cameras. Here we're showing the backup camera. The Elev8 has 4 camera inputs. Right now we only have a backup camera hooked up, but you can select through the rest on screen, like here. Here we're going to get into Apple CarPlay, which totally transforms your driving experience. You can access many of the apps that would normally be on your phone here. You can use Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, whatever you prefer. You can access your contacts, scroll through them. The Stinger menu icon while in CarPlay takes you back to the Stinger main menu. Here we've accessed the audio settings. You can adjust fade and balance, loudness, and a plethora of many other settings. Here's your EQ. You can change the EQ settings like so, or reset it back to flat. Here's your crossover page, where you can adjust the crossover frequencies for your front outputs, your rear outputs, or your subwoofer outputs to whatever you like. You can also adjust the crossover slope and the level of your RCA outputs. Here's your time alignment page, where you can set the speakers in the vehicle to the exact distance from the listener's head position to optimize the level of sound quality in your car. Here are the preset audio settings, which we've programmed to be configured best for different genres of music. Here's expanded audio settings, where you can defeat all the settings you've already made. You can turn on and off your Toslink digital optical output, and a couple of other features as well. Here's your camera settings, where you can configure any type of camera that you have installed. You can also set up how your triggers for the camera work, and you can turn on and off your reverse camera audio. Looks like everything seems to be functioning perfectly. Now we can continue with the final reassembly of the dash. I hope you've enjoyed this installation video of the all-new Stinger Elev8. For more installation videos and the latest on Stinger electronics, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check us out at stingerelectronics.com.